Thank you very much. Sorry for the delay. Technology is a good thing and can get in the way too, so I apologize. I'm here with my colleague Kristi Pero, who is one of our curriculum designers and trainers for BEST, and we are a nonprofit that was recently approved by the IRS. We're excited to share with you today some information about some apps that we've shared and some trainings that we've created specifically to help with self-regulation and productivity. So I encourage you, if you have questions during the webinar, if you want to type them in the chat, I will try and keep an eye out. And then Stephen, if you see some questions that might come up that I can answer, I'm happy to do that. We wanted to go ahead and do a disclosure. Basically, we're both staff members of a nonprofit called BEST, and BEST, the nonprofit, created the PaceMyDay and ReachMyGoals app and the training that we're going to be presenting, so we just wanted everyone to know that. My name, again, is Michelle Wild. I am the CEO of BEST. I'm also a community college teacher in California. I work at Coastline Community College in their acquired brain injury program. And so basically, my experience has been in working with adults with brain injuries and other individuals that are dealing with other cognitive issues. And I've been doing that for about 25 years or more. Kristi can introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her story.
I was in Michelle's class a year ago, and I was in it for 2 years. And as I was transitioning out, I wanted to work with people that had some kind of cognitive or possibly going to have some aging memory issues, and so I was going to work with them, and Michelle and I decided to work together and form the nonprofit. So I have come into this with a brain injury, so that's my part in it that I bring to the nonprofit, is that I can share and help people see things from our point of view.
So Kristi has played an integral role in terms of sharing her story and how she's using technology, not just the apps that BEST has created, but how she has sort of embraced technology more recently. She can tell you a little bit more about her story in just a few minutes, but basically she started out with a flip phone and is now, sort of the iPad and iPhone and Mac person that people go to ask for assistance. So she's really embraced technology and uses it regularly. In terms of cognitive issues that might impact individuals in the home environment or at school or at work, there's a variety of issues that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Memory, low energy can be an issue in all of those environments. Problem solving, organization, time management, and then poor insight. So what we want to do is we want to help people learn to use technology by using sort of what we call the Making Cognitive Connections approach. What we do with Making Cognitive Connections is we really emphasize the benefits of the smart devices as a cognitive or a memory prosthetic. So many times individuals have devices now. They have iPhones and iPads, and often they just use them as a toy or as an initial productivity tool. So they may use it for a telephone, for texting, social media, and maybe games. And oftentimes people don't really end up using it as a tool that can benefit them in terms of any kinds of cognitive issues that they might be dealing with. So we really see the smart devices as a memory or a cognitive prosthetic. In addition to that, we teach the fundamental technical skills necessary to really operate the smart devices. But in addition to that, we draw a parallel to the cognitive skills that underlie the use of the technology. So for instance, what I mean by that is we will teach an individual how to use, let's say, an iPhone or a particular app on an iPhone, but at the same time we're teaching skills such as sequencing or problem solving or organization. And I'll illustrate that a little bit in the apps that we're going to display today. And then I can also show you with a couple of other apps that we have some training that we've developed specifically for certain apps that we've found to be very beneficial. The other piece of this puzzle is really the idea of making sure that people learn how to generalize from one app to another or from one environment to another. And so we really emphasize that within that making cognitive connections approach as well. The best suite is currently PaceMyDay and ReachMyGoals, and we're just getting started on a new app called Strategize My Life. And PaceMyDay and ReachMyGoals have been around for a while. PaceMyDay was developed about 2 years ago. ReachMyGoals has been out for about the last 6 months or so. And Strategize My Life should be out by the end of this year, so we're excited about that. And the idea of the suite is that all of these apps integrate together. So they share information, so it eliminates redundancy in terms of having to put in information more than one time. It also, part of redundancy when you're using multiple apps is it's very easy to include typos and to make mistakes in terms of planning and that kind of thing. And so by having a suite of apps and all the apps within that suite communicate and share information, it makes it a lot easier in the long run. So we'll just give you a couple of pieces of information about the apps, and then we're actually going to jump into the apps and we'll show you how the apps actually work. So PaceMyDay is really designed to help a person optimize the energy they have in order to be more successful throughout the day. One of the challenges for many individuals when you're dealing with any kind of cognitive and sometimes physical issues is the issue of energy management, and time management. And so what PaceMyDay does is it really helps you plan your day based on information that the app collects from you in terms of your sleep and your overall energy levels. It also helps you identify the optimal amount of time that you can do a particular task and still have some energy in reserve for other things. And then the third thing is it helps you identify appropriate breaks to help actually re-energize you. Oftentimes what happens is individuals will work on something, they'll push through it, and the problem is that they don't take breaks, and as a result they end up overwhelming themselves and kind of wiping themselves out. I see a question here, are these apps available for both Apple and Android? Right now they're only available for Apple. Appreciate the question. So right now they're only available for Apple. We hope to integrate them into an Android environment in the future. PaceMyDay, the original name for that was Manage My Fatigue. That actually is available for Android, but it's an older version. So hopefully that answers that question. ReachMyGoals is really designed to help individuals set their goals, monitor their progress as they're working on the goals, and then ultimately build on those successes. And so ReachMyGoals allows a person to set personalized, specific, and measurable goals. So it's based on a SMART goal process, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. It allows you to break down your goals into individual tasks with due dates. It allows you to receive reminders for due dates on tasks. And then it also allows you to self-generate a success journal and a challenges journal, which can be very helpful in terms of memory and just sort of being aware of what things are working and perhaps what challenges you might be dealing with. PaceMyDay is really designed for energy management, time management, identifying how long tasks take post-injury. And I'm going to ask Kristi in just a second to talk a little bit about that and the differences between how long it may have taken her to do things before her injury and then after her injury. It also allows you to integrate breaks and encourages you to take breaks. And it's based on a principle of self-regulation. So as you can see in the area down here towards the bottom, the best suite is $9.99, and that will include both the PaceMyDay, the ReachMyGoals, and the Strategize My Life app. just as soon as it's actually completed. So Kristi, do you mind talking just a little bit about this concept of energy management and time management and how long it takes you to do something now post-injury versus prior to your injury?
The thing that's different after you have a brain injury is that we don't have a reserve. And people that have a reserve can push through if they've got a lot on their plate and they're tired and what have you. They can just go back, reach deep down inside and be able to have that reserve to plug through and keep going. And we don't have that. Expression of hitting the wall did not really hit. I did not understand that. It's kind of like the cartoon where you literally hit the wall and you slide down. We hit a wall and we have to go to sleep. And the thing that is the hardest after a brain injury or somebody with a brain injury, that you have this idea that I used to be able to do this, so why can't I do it now? And I used to be able to do so many activities and be able to finish them. And the problem with that is if we keep pushing and trying to do something, we're going to hit a wall and we're going to be tired. And not only do we stop at that day and time and have to, like myself, I'll have to go to bed. The other thing is it could end up having me be in bed for a day afterwards. And so the thing that really helped with PaceMyDay is I learned to put down an activity in the app and find out that sometimes a certain activity I can only stay with maybe 10, maybe 20 minutes and still have energy and take a break. And the break can be either just walking around for a little bit or just getting myself a little bit of a rest cognitively and then going back to it. I have found out that it's a lot better to work at something a little bit at a time and take a break instead of trying to do something for a long period of time to try to accomplish it.
Kristi, I have a question. So you just said that you realized that. Is that something that you realized right after your injury, or is that something that you realized as a result of kind of using the app and that self-regulation process?
It came from using the app. The app is set up that you only work on an activity. You can only set up one activity at a time. You can only set up 60 minutes worth. And at the beginning, I would work at something for 60 minutes and I would be exhausted. And prior to the activity, the app asks you how your energy level is at the time. And then when the minute is up, the hour is up, the 60 minutes, then it will ask you what your energy is again after you've worked at it for an hour. And most of the time after especially specific activities, I was always exhausted. And so then I had to figure out, and sometimes I would not listen to the app, and even though several times after saying I'm still exhausted, I kept trying and kept trying. But after so many times of trying to do that activity, the app will say, you know what, you keep doing this activity for a long period of time, and maybe you should think about curtailing it and cutting it back a little bit. And so therefore, I would say instead of 60 minutes, I would try lessening it down to 45. And eventually, in some instances, I ended up doing it for 20 minutes. And that way, I learned how to self-regulate in which activities would cause me the most energy depleting. Plus, I also knew that those activities might not be the best thing to do at 4 in the afternoon when my energy is low. So there's a lot of helpful ways that this app helps me understand and self-regulate to know what kind of activities to do and when to do them and for how long.
Perfect, thanks. So why don't we jump into PaceMyDay just so that you can kind of get a sense of what it is. Kristi shared some of the ways in which it's helped her, and has mentioned some of the features. So why don't we jump in and actually take a look at the features. So this is the PaceMyDay app, and there's a lot of information here. When you first get the app, there are just two sort of sample categories that you start with. You'll see here at the top it says My Categories. The app is completely customizable in terms of the types of activities that you might incorporate into the task. So you'll see these are all different categories, and each one of these, if I go to, let's say, my errands, which is right here, you'll see I have individual tasks within that category called errands. And so this is customizable to the point where you can incorporate any categories you want. If you want to delete something, you can simply tap and slide, and you can delete that particular category and all of its activities. So again, I'm going to tap and slide. You'll see you could rename it if you wanted to, or you could delete that. So as you go through, you can customize this. You may create some categories now and decide that later on that category is no longer relevant, or the tasks within the category are no longer relevant. You can then modify it. To create a category, all you have to do is come up to the plus sign, and it's going to ask you what kind of category do you want to create. I just deleted the school category on purpose so that I could show you, but I'm going to add one back in. So for school, type in school, and I'm going to hit Add Category. Now you'll see I have a school category here, but I don't have any tasks in that category. So I'm going to go ahead and add a task, and I'm going to say English homework as an example. So if I type in English, got to make sure that it actually sees it. There's English homework, and tap on Add Task. You'll see now that what happens is this is all part of the setup process, but I can actually incorporate strategies that might help me with my English homework. So I might want to put a strategy, something like make sure that I have my glasses. Make sure that I have a highlighter pen if that's something that I would use. All these things are things that you would put in order to help yourself be better prepared to sit down and actually start working on your, in this case, English homework. The notes section is something that can be used where a person would identify perhaps what page number they left off on, or what section they might have left off on in a particular chapter. So this helps with memory, and also I think it helps people feel more confident that they won't forget where they left off, and that they won't also reread the same kinds of materials over and over again. Down here in this section is the optimal duration, which is the amount of time you think you can do a task and still have some energy left over. And Kristi mentioned that the maximum amount of time that you can do a task ranges from 5 minutes to 60 minutes. It's our belief at best that individuals shouldn't be working on a task for more than 60 minutes without kind of checking in on themselves and seeing how they're feeling, whether or not they're still paying attention, whether or not they feel like they're still able to continue working on something. And so they can choose anywhere from 5 minutes to 60 minutes. So I could probably do homework for about 35 minutes. And then down here, it asks you what the energy level is that's required for this particular task. And so in this particular case, you'll see we have low, medium, and high energy. So English homework for me might be maybe a medium energy task, whereas for Kristi it might be a high energy task.
Very high.
For someone else, it might be a low energy task. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. And now you'll see I have English homework listed here. I'm going to back up for just a second. I'm going to show you something that I've already created. So I'm going to go into my errands category. And you'll see I have Costco listed here. I have medical appointments, miscellaneous stops, doing some stuff with my mom, shopping at Ralph's. These are all individual tasks. And each one of these tasks can have a different energy level or require a different amount of energy. So if I go to Costco, I don't know about you, but when I go to Costco, it becomes a pretty high energy task. And so I've identified that appropriately down here. I've also identified some strategies. Whenever I go to Costco, I always forget my refrigeration bags. And I got a lot of frozen stuff at Costco, and so that can be problematic. So I have a strategy here just to be sure that I bring the refrigerated bags with me. I also have a note here. I have 2 Costco's near me. I'm in Southern California. I have one in Irvine and one in Laguna Niguel. And the one in Irvine is the only one that has the oatmeal cranberry cookies. So if that's on my shopping list, I know I need to go to Irvine. I would start this before I leave the house. That way I make sure my strategies are in place and I know my notes and I know which Costco I'm actually going to. I would then set the amount of time I can spend at Costco and still have some energy left. Some of you might be thinking, well, I could spend an hour at Costco or I could spend 15 minutes at Costco and that would zap my energy. Actually what I do is the way I do this is I have about 45 minutes for my Costco time. So I could add that here just as an example. And if I'm in Costco and my timer goes off and the reminder sounds and I'm at Costco and still working on getting groceries and stuff, I'll actually just pull my cart over to the side in a quiet aisle and just kind of stand there for a few minutes, maybe look at something that's in that aisle, just to sort of relax a little bit, and then I'll jump right back into shopping again. So you can do this and use this in a variety of different ways. So this is all part of the setup. Now it will take some time to set the app up because you've got various categories and tasks within your life. We don't recommend that you start with as many as we have here. These are just some examples. In fact, when you start using the app, if you're interested, it would be something where you might just start with one category and just a couple of tasks, or you might have several categories. You can also customize the breaks. So you can see here I have get water or coffee, meditate, stretch, take a walk. In fact, one of my students has identified that watching TV is sort of a break activity that she considers a reward, and so she's added that to her break activity.
Michelle, I just wanted to interrupt. Could we go back to errands for just a second?
Sure.
I wanted to point out that if you look at the energy levels have a different color. I'm very color orientated, so right away I can see that there are a number of activities there that are medium energy, and then there are some that are high energy. The high energy ones are the ones that are going to zap you quickly, and so you'll want to make sure that you don't put a whole lot of red things in when you plan your day later on when she's going to get to planning out your day. You don't want a whole lot of activities that have these red, high energy required tasks.
Good idea. So I'm going to go to My Day now, and basically the way the app works is there's a morning questionnaire that you can take, and it will help you sort of identify how you're feeling, how much energy you have when you get up, what level of sleep you got. I can give you a quick example of what the morning questionnaire looks like. So here's some of the questions from the morning questionnaire. What time did you turn off the lights? What time did you actually get out of bed this morning? How long do you think it took you to fall asleep? These are very standard sleep questions, and we've incorporated it into the app in order to allow individuals to begin to develop kind of that self-regulation skill. So to really think about how am I feeling when I get up, and to plan their day based on what they think they can realistically accomplish and be successful with. So to add something to your day, you just go up to the plus sign, and this is where the two apps, PaceMyDay and ReachMyGoals, are integrated. So I'm going to choose a PaceMyDay task for right now. We'll look at ReachMyGoals in just a minute. And I'm going to choose one of those errands that we just looked at. And I'm going to say, yep, today's my day to go to Costco. I can actually set a reminder to be reminded to go to Costco at a particular time, or I can just skip the reminder, and basically what happens in that case is I can just go to Costco at whatever is convenient for me. To start the process, you tap on it. This shows me my strategies. It shows me my notes. So I'm getting ready to leave the house. When I'm ready to leave, I hit Get Started. It's going to ask me what my current mood is, so I'm in a pretty good mood right now. And it's going to ask me what my current level of energy is. You can see my optimal duration is about 45 minutes. I'm going to choose So-So. And you'll notice that the app will actually make a recommendation for a modified amount of time, with the idea that if you are only feeling so-so at the time, that possibly using the optimal duration of 45 minutes may be too much, and you may wipe yourself out even sooner. So you get the opportunity to use either a modified or an optimal duration. I'll choose modified. A countdown timer starts. It's going to run in the background. I can now look at my shopping list on my phone. I can make phone calls. I can check email. I can do whatever I need to do. And at the end of that time period, you're going to evaluate how you did. So did you complete the task for the day? If I'm done with Costco, I'd go ahead and say yes. If I was not done at Costco but I needed to take a short break, I'd say no. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. It's then going to ask me what my current mood is. So I'm still in a pretty good mood. But right now I'm actually tired. So I went from so-so to being tired. And at this point, it's going to, this is what Kristi was mentioning. So in previous examples, we've used this before. And it says here, change optimal duration. You stopped this task early due to being tired several times. Would you like to shorten your optimal duration for this task? This, again, is building in that self-regulation. If you're doing this several times and you continue to stop, in this case, prematurely because you're tired, over a period of 4 out of the last 6 times you've done the task, then the app is going to encourage you to modify the time, but it's not going to force you to do it. So I'm going to say, yeah, you know what, I might change it to 30 minutes. And I would say change. It's then going to ask me if I want to take a break, if I want to write some notes, or if I want to just go back to my day and start working on another task. I would say I want to take a break. You'll notice I see all the same break activities that I was looking at earlier. I'm going to say that I'm going to stretch or take a walk here. I'm going to take a 5-minute walk. And what happens is you'll see a countdown timer starts. And I can play music from my device if I want during that break time. I can watch a slideshow of my favorite pictures of my animals or my kids or my family. And this is all happening during my break in order to help relax me and in order to help sort of rejuvenate me and allow me to gain some energy. At the end of the break, basically what's going to happen is you would go back to the My Day screen. You'll see that I'm done at Costco if I said that I had finished the task. And if there were other tasks listed here, then I could just start on some additional tasks. As we go through this, it always seems like it's more complicated than it is because we're doing a demo and you're not actually doing it with us. So I can tell you that the actual process of starting a task and using the app takes about 30 seconds. So the process itself is not very long, but what takes some time is actually getting it set up and getting it organized. So that's the PaceMyDay app. It includes some charts that you can generate that can be very helpful to help people see how much time they're spending on one task versus another and on each category. You can also look at the total amount of time that you spent on different tasks. So the charts can be very helpful to help you gain insights. Go ahead, Kristi, you were going to say something?
One of the things that I just recently figured out, even though I've been using this app for 3 years, is that one of the things that I would do as somebody teaching a new person how to use this is to try to figure out what kind of the energy level. I kept looking at this high energy and then no energy. I always thought that I kept comparing the high energy to what I used to be able to do. And so I never ever indicated when I would do the app that I had high energy because I was always comparing myself to before. And I realized just recently that I'm never going to have the energy, that super high amount of energy that I used to have. I do have higher energy days than other days. So now what I have to do is compare and my high energy days and remember what that feels like and have that as my indicator as a high energy, and stop comparing my energy level from what used to be before my accident.
I think that's a really good point, and something that often people have an issue with in terms of constantly comparing themselves, if the issue is a brain injury, comparing themselves to their pre-brain injury energy levels versus their post-injury levels. So that's an issue. Does anyone have any questions about PaceMyDay? I haven't seen anything come through the chat, but we're happy to answer questions. If there's no questions, then we'll just move quickly into the ReachMyGoals app.
I have one more thing to add to it. Another thing that PaceMyDay has in it is an opportunity to be able to have check-ins, as far as, and you can create those at any time. And I used to use them for in the morning when I first started out my day. Then I would have one in the afternoon, or early afternoon, to check in to see how much more I had to do, what I had planned on my day, to see if I really had that much energy to complete the rest of the tasks or before I add another task. And then I also had another timer go off at the end of the day, more around after dinner, to see if there was anything, to just check in with myself to see if there were more tasks that I needed to do before I went to bed. And it was nice to be able to have and the opportunity to give myself check-ins, to keep looking into my app to see if there were tasks that I had not yet completed. As you can see, in this situation, we completed going to Costco, but sometimes when we're writing an essay or trying to make a phone call with somebody and we had left messages and we never got back to that person, or they never got back to us, that task wasn't completed. And one of the problems that I have is if I made that phone call and left a message or couldn't leave a message, in my head I made the phone call. And so if I didn't have that reminder go off in the middle of the day saying, you know, just look into the list of what you had for your day, I wouldn't have remembered that, oh yeah, I made that phone call, but I didn't actually get to make a connection with that person or make an appointment or get the information I needed. I might need to make another follow-up phone call of a totally different person or different company. So it was very helpful to have those other reminders that I could set up to just check in with the app morning, afternoon, and evening.
Okay. So I'm going to jump then back to the presentation for just a second, and let's take a look at the ReachMyGoals app. So ReachMyGoals is really designed to help individuals set SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So we developed ReachMyGoals based on the SMART goal concept, and those might be goals for having a party, goals for being successful during a school semester. Perhaps it might be a household project, maybe painting a bedroom or something like that. You can establish task lists. You can plan a variety of different kinds of activities. And again, the idea is that it's built on a principle of self-regulation. So if we go back into the Best Suite, we're currently in PaceMyDay. I'm going to go up to my little home icon, and that's going to take me back to my Best Suite main screen. And you'll see that now I can choose the ReachMyGoals app. I have some goals set here. So I have Best Task. I have an SLP essay that I need to write. I have the launch party. We just had a launch party for Best. And then I have some online trainings. I'm going to go ahead and tap on the launch party and just kind of give you an overview of the kind of information that's available. So you'll see here we have a SMART goal written out. You can use a template within the ReachMyGoals app, or you can have a guided step-by-step feature that will allow you to answer individual questions. It then sort of aggregates all that information and puts it into this area here, which is our definition of our SMART goal. You can categorize your goals into different family categories, work, career, etc. You can create a start date and a due date for each goal. You're asked to identify if this is truly an attainable goal. And this question is really important because in lots of cases, a person will set a goal and won't really think about whether or not it's truly attainable. And they may spend a lot of time on it, and it may be time that they could better spend somewhere else. The next question, or the next section, is about how relevant the goal is. This one is really important because this is sort of what motivates people. When someone is kind of down and out, not really happy with their progress they're making, frustrated, anxious about the goals that they've set, really coming back to this field and looking at why this was relevant to you, why this was important to you, is really a very motivating piece of the whole SMART goal process. You can identify whether the goal is a short-term or a long-term goal. And then down here at the bottom, we've integrated variation on the goal attainment scale idea. And so if you're familiar with that, we've sort of done our own little take on that and incorporated that into the ReachMyGoals app. This screen is sort of a summary screen. It's going to pop up every time someone looks at a particular goal. The reason for this is because this information is really the information that you need to know in order to really move forward with the goal. So if a person's already answered all these questions, all they have to do is come down here to Manage Tasks. And this is going to give us a list of all the tasks that we've identified that are active. It's also going to show us up at the top what tasks we've completed. And this is really important because so often in different apps, all you see is the tasks that need to be done, the active tasks. Completed tasks are often either hidden or go to the very bottom of the list. We really wanted to make sure that the individuals that are using ReachMyGoals can see what they've actually accomplished and that that's sort of right there in the forefront. So you'll see here I have 2 tasks completed for this, but I have a variety of tasks that are also active. You'll see here I have invitations. I don't have a due date set. I'm about 66% complete on this. And I have 3 subtasks that I've identified that need to be done with regards to that task of invitations. So let's take a look at that. If we go and we look at the invitation, you'll see it has some subtasks listed. I wanted to invite my mailing list. I wanted to invite friends and family. And I wanted to invite my students to this launch party that we were having for BEST. So you'll see here I completed 100%. I sent it out to my mailing list. I sent it out to my friends and family. And using this slider, I can sort of identify how close I am to completing that extra task. So you'll see I'm 92% done on the invitation list. And I can also just slide this all the way over. I'm 100% done, or I can check it off as being completed. And you'll see when I try to check it off, it says that I'm not done with all my subtasks. So this is sort of a catch for people so that they don't just check something off and assume they're done. So if I go into my student list and I check that off as being completed, now when I go back to the invitations, I will be able to check it off and say that I'm completely done inviting people. When I go back to my done, you'll see invitations now shows up at the top. The other thing about this is when you check it off, it's going to note here which day you checked that off. And again, all of this is built on the idea of self-regulation to help you sort of learn over time where your strengths and where your weaknesses are, and perhaps how you might be able to modify some things in order to show success and completion of goals. At the bottom here, I have where it says upcoming tasks. I can see that I have a number of tasks due. This tells me which goal the task is related to and what the task is itself. And it tells me when the due date was for that particular task. I can also come to my achieved goals, and I can see that I have had a goal in the past that was called grants, and that I completed that goal on October 28th in this case. Finally, we can look at what's called a weekly check-in. And the weekly check-in is based on each goal, and it allows you to set up an opportunity to sort of create a success journal and a challenge journal. I'm going to tap where it says Launch Party, and I'm going to create a new weekly check-in. And you'll see just recently, today, I checked off the invitations. So this would give me an opportunity to come up to the top and to type in something about my successes. So I might say a success for this week is that I was able to get all the invitations sent out. Perhaps a challenge for this week might have been, although I got the invitations sent out, I didn't get it done as quickly as I thought I might have or I wanted to. So as I type the information into each of these fields, so send all invitations out would be a success, and a challenge might be I was delayed in getting some invites out due to not having, let's say, something like stamps. So if I was sending physical invitations out, if I didn't have stamps, that might have been a challenge. And so that would be something that I could put on my list in terms of a strategy, perhaps, for the next time I have to do something like this. I go ahead and say done, and now I can actually go in and I can generate a journal, a success journal. So if I can say I want to do all of these, or I can just say I want to do the launch party, and I'm going to generate a success journal, and you'll see it gives me a list of the successes that I've had for that particular goal. This could be very useful because it really helps people see what they're doing right. It emphasizes the successes they've had, no matter how little the successes are. As long as they can recognize and acknowledge them, it's going to keep a running tally of all the successes that they've had. It also will keep a tally of maybe some of the challenges that they've had as they're working towards their goals, and that can be very enlightening as well. Let's see, Kristi, do you have any comment about the Reach My Goals app? Let me just ask Stephen real quick. Stephen, what's our time frame? I just want to make sure we're within our limit here.
Yes, you have up until 3:30, so
okay. Perfect.
Yeah, you have some time.
I just wanted to make sure we were within our time frame, so go right ahead. Thank you.
One of the things that I find that having Reach My Goals and using it is that it helps me to be able to initiate. Same thing with into PaceMyDay. I think Michelle will show you in a little bit how you put in the tasks that you've identified in the goals, and you can use those tasks and bring them over into the PaceMyDay screen, and you can use you'll be able to, it helps initiate that day that you should look at these goals, these tasks to be able to accomplish these goals. Sometimes the problem, I would write down goals before my accident, but I never ever thought of putting a time to it, and that was really important to be able to have that kind of concept. And the other part is to go through that whole process of the SMART piece that you see at the very beginning, because once you start writing that down and you have to put in the date and you have to put in how you're going to, that it is attainable and how, and then to be able to commit to saying something as to, I'm going to work at this for 3 days for an hour or something like that, to be able to commit and figure that part out was very helpful, because some of those pieces to the puzzle of setting up a goal you don't remember or you don't think of, and eventually the goal just kind of withers away and you end up having a sense of failure because you didn't do the goal, or you end up in a lot of trouble because you didn't accomplish the goal. So the whole setup, the way it walks you through and kind of guides you through it and holds your hand and helps you set it up. One of the things we didn't show is that there are templates that are set up that make it easy, and we're looking for people to give us ideas as far as templates. There's a template that...
Let's show them that right now. How about that? So if we come back to our main screen, one of the things that we can do is if we're going to create a new goal, you'll see down here at the bottom there's something called Use a Goal Template. So if we tap on the Use a Goal Template, right now there's only 2 templates that we've incorporated. We're looking for more examples for templates. One example that has been suggested to us is perhaps a general concept or a general list of tasks that might be necessary in order to get a driver's license back if someone has lost their driver's license as a result of an injury or an accident. There's certain steps that have to be done in order to get the license back from the DMV, and although we wouldn't know every single step for every single person, we can certainly incorporate the generic steps and then they can be filled in accordingly. So let's look at the Complete an Essay template. You'll see we just have complete essay for English class by working on it 3 days a week for at least an hour. This could be for a history class. This could be for any kind of class that you might have to write an essay for. It could even be modified once you've accepted it into being some kind of goal that would be set for doing a presentation. So all we're doing is giving people a starting point. But if you were going to write an essay, the template tasks that we've identified are to review the requirements, brainstorm sort of what you might want to talk about, create an outline, do your research, write a rough draft of the essay, maybe submit it for feedback or show it to someone for some feedback, review it and do a final draft, and then submit the essay. So if that's the case and a person likes this particular template, all they have to do is say create goal using template. They would put in, I'm going to say English essay, and hit add. And now we actually have English essay added here. And now we can go in, if we manage our tasks, you'll see that all of the activities that were in that template are now listed, and we don't have to go in and sort of generate from scratch all the activities that might be required for creating an English essay. So if you have thoughts or ideas on that, we found that a lot of people like having the templates because it sort of gives them a starting point. For individuals often that are dealing with some kind of cognitive challenge, what ends up happening is coming up with all the little pieces in order to really set a goal or accomplish a goal is sometimes more difficult. And so by having those pieces sort of predefined, even in just a generic way, can be a really good starting point.
I used the template at the beginning to start learning how to set up a goal. I then, going from using it to write a paper, I also started using it to create something that I ended up making and using it for a project. Instead of an essay, it was really to write out what I was going to say on a video. And then after that, I used it for having a party. I just changed the wording and verbiage, and eventually, because I used the template so much and got comfortable, then I was able to feel that I could make my own goal by step.
Good example. So you might be wondering, so how does this relate to PaceMyDay? Well, oftentimes what ends up happening is when a person is setting goals, sometimes there are different reasons for why a person may not accomplish the goals. And one of those reasons is they don't dedicate enough time, or they don't realize how much time they're spending or not spending on working on their goals. And so we've set some goals here. If I go back to my Best Suite screen and I now enter PaceMyDay, If I go back into my plus sign and I want to add something, you'll now see this. I can actually add a Reach My Goals task to my day. So if I say Reach My Goals task, there's my launch party listed. There's my other 2 goals that I had identified. If I tap on launch party, these are the tasks that I have not yet worked on or I still need to accomplish in terms of the launch party. So I might say banner here. I can then again set a reminder or just skip the reminder. And so now I see that for today, I wanted to do errands at Costco and I wanted to do my launch party. So again, as the way that this works is you sort of think about how much energy you have, how much time you have. You would sort of add activities to your day based on that information. If you decide that you can't do a particular thing, you can tap and slide. And again, you can remove from here if you want to. Or you could identify later in the day. This is sort of what Kristi had mentioned before, where if it's 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon and she's got 2 things listed on her day, but she's feeling pretty good, she might actually go in and add another task that she'd like to try to accomplish for the day. So maybe she wants to make dinner and watch TV with her husband or her kids. And so now all of a sudden she's got home TV dinner as one of the activities. You might wonder why home TV dinner would even be an activity in PaceMyDay. And one of the reasons for that is because different activities that we do require different levels of energy based on individuals. So if you're an individual that has some kind of, let's say, physical limitation, paralysis or hemiparesis, something like taking out the trash or making dinner might be quite a high energy task for you. Whereas if I'm doing it and I don't have a limitation like that, doing something like making dinner may be a very low energy task for me. So again, this is why this is customizable, and as Kristi mentioned earlier, being able to see that you have 2 or 3 high energy tasks all designated for one day may give you some insights that that might be too much, or it may be that you have all low energy tasks and you think, I have some extra energy. I can add something that might require a little bit more energy on my part. Just to do a quick review, here's my launch party banner. In PaceMyDay, all I do is tap on it. I add some strategies or notes, or I look at what's there. I say get started. I rate my mood. I rate my energy. I choose whether I want my modified or my optimal duration based on how I'm feeling. And I'm off and running. I now can be working on the banner task associated with the launch party. When I'm done, I either say that I'm done with the task or not. So I'm going to say no here. I'm going to say my mood is average and my energy is, I'm still kind of so-so. I'm going to just say that I completed this early. I didn't need as much time as I had thought. Now I can take a break, or I can go back to my day and I can continue to work on that task, or I can work on some other task. So again, the overall process of setting the apps up can take a little while, but it's something that you would do over a period of time and not try and sit down and brainstorm and enter all the activities that you would ordinarily be doing. And once you've got it set up, it doesn't take very long to actually go in and use the apps. Something else that I wanted to show was if we go in here and we look at our calendar, all the activities within the, let me go to my day screen here, all the activities within the PaceMyDay app will actually get populated directly into your calendar, so that within your calendar, whether it's the iCloud calendar or this is something called Week Calendar, you will see the activities that you've done in your calendar, and that makes the suite actually quite an effective time management kind of tool as well. Kristi, what do you think of the calendaring component?
I wanted to bring up something that I mentioned earlier, that I am color orientated, and when you're in the process of going and making up PaceMyDay categories, one of the things that I found that Michelle taught us in school was to just keep track of what kind of activities you do over a 2-week period. Not how long, not how often, but just to keep track of what kind of activities you do throughout your daily life. And then take those activities and start to make categories out of them. Which ones are home-based, which ones are socially based, which ones are work-based, school-based, any kind of things like that. And then you can take those categories and then put them into, and then assign tasks underneath them. In my categories, I made sure that all my categories have something to do with, and I assigned a color to all my categories. Again, like Michelle said, I started off very simple and just had only 2 categories, and that was family and school. That way I could see how much time I was spending in school and how much time I was spending with family. Then I started adding home category, and I had the tasks with that. Then I started adding a category of yard and started adding tasks. That helped me see very quickly when it populated into the calendar later on after I used PaceMyDay. I could see visually very quickly that, you know what, I'm spending a whole lot of time in at school. There would be weeks that I would just kind of overdo it with school and then not do anything in the yard, or not have enough time to do things that really filled me with energy, gave back some energy, and that would be that spending time with people, having social time. So it helped me be able to see visually very quickly and clearly where my time was spent, because it populated into a calendar and I could see that with color. So that was a very helpful thing that helps me with PaceMyDay.
So I'm going to go back now. I don't know if there's any questions on the ReachMyGoals app, but if there are, please feel free to add them to the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. Strategize My Life is a new app that will be coming out, we mentioned, at the end of the year. And the Strategize My Life app will integrate with PaceMyDay and ReachMyGoals. And essentially this is an app that will allow individuals to sort of identify strategies that they may use throughout their life in a variety of different areas of their life. They will be able to rate the strategies on how effective the strategies are, so that they're not sort of constantly trying the same thing over and over again and getting the same potential result of maybe that strategy not working. One of the things that we know is, especially if an individual has an acquired cognitive issue, that oftentimes they continue to try to use the same strategies they used before the onset of the challenge, and that doesn't always work. So one of the ideas of Strategize My Life is to really help people identify what strategies work for them now, either post-injury or post-diagnosis, and to be able to hold on to those strategies in order to save time and energy, and to make them more effective and efficient, I think, overall. So that's the suite that we've talked about. I'm going to go ahead and go back into my slides. And so we've developed, again, these apps over the last couple of years. We have people using them all over the country. We have veterans using them in different VA hospitals. We have individuals using them with acquired brain injury. We have individuals living with multiple sclerosis using the apps. And we've been getting, really good feedback. We do hear what people have to say, and so the app will evolve and has evolved over time. We do try and keep the look and feel of the app to be very consistent, but we like to add features based on feedback that we get, and or modify features based on feedback. So we certainly would appreciate hearing anything you might have to say about the apps. In terms of training, there's something that is really important within this whole world of assistive technology and apps and smart devices, and that is that not everyone has the time or the energy or the desire to learn all the different apps. So one of the things that BEST believes in is really identifying a handful of apps that can be used in a variety of different ways in which to help people across many aspects of their lives. So we've developed some app trainings that we do online. I'm a total technology geek, and Kristi's turning into one. So between the two of us, we actually really enjoy training people on how to use these apps. This is something that we're very passionate about and that we really enjoy. And so we are happy to help other people learn to use the apps. Whereas oftentimes other professions, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, neurologists, etc., various and sundry doctors and therapists really don't have the time that they can dedicate to learning smart devices and apps, because that's really not their primary purview. Because we're geeky and we love this stuff, we actually, would love to be able to teach people and sort of fill that gap. So we've identified some best practices in app training. Some of those practices are to incorporate step-by-step instructions that include screen captures in order to help orient users to where they might want to be looking or where they should be looking. We've also included training materials such as written and videos as often as needed in order to learn the apps. And then we've also set it up so that learning to use the apps independently, basically by watching videos, signing into a website, seeing videos, seeing screen captures, can be very helpful for individuals.
What I like about this with somebody such as myself with a brain injury is it takes sometimes 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 times to go over and over, or to go back to a certain place to refresh your memory, or to relearn how to do something in case you don't, you learned it once but then you didn't use it for a while, then you forgot, then you need to go back and relearn it. This is available to be able to do through the trainings, because they can do it at their own pace, at their own time, instead of trying to do something in a class situation or a meeting or some kind of fixed time thing. They can do this on their own, and that is much more benefit. It helps being able to do it on your own, and to be able to keep going back until you grasp the idea.
Good point. We also like to incorporate troubleshooting. We know that there are issues that many people have when they're trying to learn how to do certain things in certain apps. And so as a result of that, we've integrated troubleshooting problems into the trainings themselves. So we sort of identified common issues that people could have in using the apps, and then we provide solutions for those issues in order to help people feel like they can overcome the troubleshooting issues when they're learning to use an app, versus basically kind of giving up because they can't figure it out. We also incorporate skills and have activities and projects that individuals work on. We've integrated making cognitive connections. And in our training environment, which we'll show you in just a second, we have a system that allows you to know where you left off so you don't keep working on the same issues over and over again. So here's just a quick picture of our training environment. And I'm actually going to take you directly into the training environment so that you can see it. Let me find it here. There we go. It'll take a second for it to pop up. But this is an example of the training environment. This is the PaceMyDay app. And you'll see over here on the left-hand side, we have all the different lessons that are associated with this particular course. Each course has a variety of videos that we've identified. In addition to videos, we may also have screen captures. We'll have the troubleshooting guides and a variety of other things. Here's some step-by-step activities. There's give it a tries. On some of the things, we even have little quizzes to help you test your mastery of the information. And then here's a quick example of the troubleshooting I tap and hold on the task I want to delete, but all I get is the edit task pop-up. And so that's a common thing that can happen to people. So the solution might be to tap and slide from right to left in order to reveal the delete option. So these are all things that we have seen people struggle with in learning to use the apps. And so we're trying to give people kind of a heads up as to what to expect and then how to solve those problems if and when they run into them. So let me go back here just real quickly. And again, my name's Michelle. This is Kristi with me. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. If you are interested in the apps, you can certainly email us or give me a call. If you're interested in the training, I'm happy to give you the PaceMyDay and ReachMyGoals training are free. You can get online and can see those. We do have trainings for some other apps that we recommend. We recommend an app called Inspiration Match as a great app for concept mapping, for brainstorming and stuff like that. We also highly recommend and have trainings for an app called Notability. Some of you may be familiar with that. We talk about how to use Notability, again, with videos, etc. We also have a class for week calendar. And in the beginning of 2018, we're actually going to be starting some classes that would be related to goal setting, not just the Reach My Goals app, but actually what a process is for setting goals, some problem-solving courses, how to organize better. So we're going to try and provide some effective trainings for individuals on a variety of cognitive challenges that they might be dealing with. So I think that's basically it. If there's questions, we would love to answer them. I hope that you found this information beneficial and that you can see how perhaps the apps or some of the apps that we've recommended might be useful for either yourself or for individuals that you work with.
I have a question.
Sure.
I happen to be vision impaired myself and use VoiceOver on iPhones. Have you seen how your apps work with VoiceOver or Zoom or the different accessibility features? Yeah,
they should work fine with VoiceOver. Basically, I have a colleague that checked the apps out with VoiceOver, so they should be fine. If anyone uses it and you see a problem, please let me know. One of the benefits of doing this in the way in which we're doing it and having a small nonprofit is that I can contact our programmer and tell them that we have an issue or we want to make a change, and it happens very quickly. So one of the things that you might notice if you were to check in the App Store is we have several updates for our app. Oftentimes, actually in most cases, that's not because of any kind of technical issues associated with the app. It's more a matter of us adding features and getting feedback and wanting to make some changes. So when we first released the PaceMyDay app, there I think was 1 or 2 screens where there was some issue with some of the graphics and the voiceover, and we were able to get those issues fixed within about 4 days and re-uploaded it to Apple, and my colleague that was checking everything out was able to confirm that things had been resolved. So if you have thoughts or questions, or if you run into any challenges or something's not working right, please reach out to me at the email listed or the phone number, and we absolutely will take care of it. If it's possible to do, we will make it happen.
Somebody earlier in the webinar was asking if these were available for Android, and Michelle has a reason why that right now we're focusing on the Apple phone because of the issues that Android ends up doing to apps.
Developing apps for Android can be challenging because there's so many different variations of Android devices available. And so that makes Android development really more challenging and much more costly. And so for right now, we're working with the Apple environment. The other thing is, at least from my experience over the years of working with technology, is that the consistency in Apple in terms of the way Apple products work and that kind of thing really is more beneficial for individuals with any kind of cognitive challenges because the Apple devices stay pretty much the same. I know that that's changing with the new iPhone 10 that's coming out because they're now making, you know, a change in the way that their user interface is going to work. But up until now, Apple's been very consistent. It's one of the complaints that a lot of people have about the Apple devices. But from the perspective of someone that works with individuals that deal with cognitive challenges on a regular basis, the fact that Apple's been very consistent has been very effective for us. And I have students that have Android devices, and it's sometimes challenging because their phones and their tablets don't work the same because they have different manufactured devices or they have different versions of the Android operating system. And for a lot of individuals, even just a minor change can really cause some confusion and frustration. Any other questions?
I can take that one. Shannon asked if there will be a copy of the webinar made available, and yes, we will send out a copy of the presentation after the webinar, as well as we will be sending the recording along with any materials out within 7 to 14 business days. But we will send out a presentation as well.
I think one other thing, just as a kind of a final comment, the PaceMyDay app, one of the things that we mentioned is that we have a scale for mood and we have a scale for energy. It's been suggested to us that perhaps we incorporate some additional scales. They wouldn't be scales that you'd have to fill out. They would be sort of an on-off switch where you could turn the scale on or turn it off. But for such things as pain often has an impact on an individual's ability to work on things, their overall energy, also frustration, anxiety. So we're actually hearing what people are saying, and we're looking at ways to incorporate some additional scales that may be relevant to some people, where they could turn those scales on and sort of measure that. It's not uncommon for the individuals that are using the apps that are living with, you know, some kind of brain injury or something like that to share the information. Each app has the ability to generate a fairly comprehensive report. And so it's not uncommon for individuals to share those reports or those charts that I mentioned previously with their doctors or with their therapists. And that really helps give some insights that I think we as professionals haven't always had in the past. And so it allows me to have conversations with my students that I know I haven't been able to have. And the information is coming directly from the end user. So it's not something I'm making up. It's not something I'm assuming. It's actually information that's being generated by the end user. And as a result of that, it makes it very effective to have some good conversations and to really strategize on some of the problems or challenges that they might be having.
It looks like Lisa B had a question. Can you provide a certificate of completion for this webinar and email it to me? I don't know if we Emily, are you on the line? Do we have Emily Flynn? Do we have a certificate of completion for? I mean, we will send a confirmation, that you've with all the materials for the participants. So I don't know if Emily's on I think she's typing in right now to see. But yeah, I'm not familiar with us doing that, but it is possible. Okay, we do not provide certificates. Okay, so we do not have certificate of completion. So sorry about that. Okay, well,
one final word, Stephen. If someone is interested in the online trainings and just wanting to check them out, they can certainly do that with the PaceMyDay and ReachMyGoals. I'm also happy to provide them with a 10-day trial or something like that of the other online trainings for the other apps that we recommend, just so that they can get an idea of kind of what we do and how we do it in case there's any interest. They can just reach out to me and I can set that up for them.
Great. Thank you, Michelle. And also to follow up on this, Emily did mention that we can provide a confirmation of attendance email. So we can provide you with something saying that you attended the webinar. It just would not be a certificate. And so I think we've got about 2 minutes. So I just wanted to thank Michelle and Kristi for the excellent presentation. I think this is a great, these apps, or this suite of apps is a great tool for consumers. And I mean, I don't have cognitive disabilities, but I definitely could see benefits to using this myself. So you know, I think it seems very simple and user-friendly, and it just seems to be. I mean, even without using it, usually I have to be using something to really understand how it works. And so even just watching it on the webinar, I felt like it was very simple to use. So so thank you both for taking the time today, and thank you all for attending the webinar.
Stephen, I have one more comment to make to add on to what you just said. You just said that it was something, the apps would be something that you would be that would help you. And one of the things that I always make a point to tell people that are occupational therapists or speech therapists or somebody that's working with a client base is that the more you use the apps in your daily life and be able to manipulate and think about how to use them, and like for instance how I'm color orientated, and to be able to classify and categorize the different things that you have in your life and to be able to attach tasks to them. The more you do and use the app in those ways, you will be able to know how to help an individual that comes to you, and you'll know how to get them to use it because you'll help them figure out the categories and help them understand how to use it. I'm always trying to tell people that the more you use it, the better you understand it. The better you understand it, the better you can help somebody that needs that help to use the app in their life.
And I think one last thing, Stephen, you know, you were talking about you don't have a cognitive challenge. I don't have a cognitive challenge, and I use these apps. They really do help me sort of pace my energy and for time management purposes. And so the apps aren't necessarily just for individuals with cognitive challenges, but for individuals who really want to improve and increase their productivity overall. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much.